Hoor Bhanpuri with the College Board to talk about the SAT on this edition of IPA Talk. Hi, I'm Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association. Thanks for joining us for another edition of IPA Talk. Very fortunate and glad to have with me Hoor Bhanpuri, Executive Director for the state of Illinois for College Board and being our point person here in the state, mostly looking at the SAT and all of that. Hoor, having you in here, we've done this before, but glad to have you back talking with the current status of SAT, all of that good stuff. Appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so let's get into a couple of things where we're talking prior to recording. A new feature this year, the state of Illinois generously picked up the PSAT for us, and just curious, I'm sure people would be interested in knowing kind of how that's going and how schools have engaged with that opportunity.
Well, thank you, Jason. Yeah, so when Illinois State Board of Education decided to reimburse school districts for offering the grade 9 or 10 a fall or a spring, giving schools and districts a lot of options in terms of implementation, what we have found is that many schools have really taken that up and the volume has jumped. And I think the state really went down this direction because of the feedback they were receiving from schools and districts wanting to know what preparation and different assessments could be and trying to offer that up on an equity standpoint for anybody who wanted to be able to do that, to not just prepare for the SAT, but then also look at the valuable information, tools, and resources that come back to the school and the district, but also to the students themselves. So far we've seen a really great uptick, and we're really excited to see how schools are going to be using that. And we're here, and I know your organization is very much willing to help schools and districts understand and look at that information, and we'll be really supporting a lot of that as we move forward into the summer. But overall, I think that the implementation has been very strong and very solid, and schools are getting a lot of that information, which those exams were designed to do.
So, with the PSAT, I think it's important to remind people where it's not just about helping prepare kids for the SAT or giving schools information about how kids would possibly do on the SAT. Obviously, that's really important. However, it also helps give an understanding about kids' readiness for AP, if I'm correct about that, and also there might be some National Merit Scholar information and those kinds of things involved with that too. So there's a lot of power and substance to those tests.
Yeah, thanks. So you brought up two really great points. One is the AP potential piece. So when the results come back, particularly from the educator standpoint, you'll be able to see 22 different subject areas for which students have the capacity from a strictly data perspective, not looking at students' willingness to put in all the hard work, which is a very incredible piece for AP, but just from a data standpoint, when you're trying to break barriers and open up access or think about the future of which courses you think you may want to design and go into, this really provides that sort of information to bring good quality, challenging academic programming into schools, which a lot are doing really great, and the state is really leading the country in terms of creating access for AP, but there's still more work that we can be done. So there's one valuable, powerful tool in that. The other, you mentioned scholarship, and now we've actually partnered with 4 or 5 other scholarship national organizations that when students opt into Student Search, when they take these exams, these organizations can send letters to these students to make it an easier bridge to sort of get to those resources and to those dollars. And it's just, we're providing more and more resources and more partners because of, I think, the connections of what we're trying to really do here is create access to opportunity and having all students own their own future. So if we can build these bridges closer to them, we can strengthen the academic piece, and then we can also create opportunities for their future via scholarships and other opportunities like that.
Well, and I was excited, as you were mentioning, as we were prepping to get started here, that schools have even beaten your projections there with College Board in terms of capitalizing on the opportunity here to give those tests.
Yeah, so I think that's exactly what the state was hoping, is that you put that out there and that schools would come and use this, and that not just to do it, but that there's the value from what they're trying to build from an assessment standpoint and give them a lot of information to drive instruction and curriculum, and that's really what those sort of foundational exams are really built to do, as well as preparation for the SAT.
Sure, absolutely. So let's pivot to that. The test window's coming up, and thanks for sharing the dates with me. So April 10th through the 25th is the window of opportunity for schools to administer that. Just any quick tips, reminders, things people should be prepared to be receiving, or things like that?
Yeah, great. So April 10th is our primary test date, and then the accommodations window runs from April 10th to April 25th, with April 25th being the official makeup day for those students who are absent on April 10th. So that just kind of clarifies how that window works. So in the next few weeks, schools will start to receive all of their materials. We've factored in many of their spring breaks, so we've collected that earlier in the fall, and there's so emails and to test center coordinators are going out now, just letting them know when to expect what materials, but we've tried to factor in as much of the spring break schedule that takes place. But yeah, materials should be coming probably a week, because they're secure test materials. They usually come about a week and a half before the exam date. And the training windows are open for test center supervisors to share with their teams to be able to understand and get some tools on how to implement correctly. A lot of resources on the ISBE SAT website. So we're ready to go. Things are being shipped and out the door, and supervisor training kits are already out now that give sample materials for what will be coming with all of the secure test materials, the bulk registration, labels, answer sheets for schools to do their pre-administration process to reduce time on test day.
So obviously with SAT and the work that you're doing with College Board, that's really exciting. We've talked about it obviously before, but I know that you're continuing to be innovative and creative to bring about new opportunities in supporting kids' learning, not just preparing for the test, but their actual learning is what you've got going on with Khan Academy. So what's happening right now with that?
Yeah, so our official SAT practice on Khan Academy has really sort of taken it to a new level. And from some of the data that we've been able to look at, what we saw is that, and we've looked at a sample set of over, I think, 250,000 students all across, from all race, ethnicity, income levels. And what we saw is when students took the PSAT and MSQT in the fall, linked their scores into Khan Academy, and then had 20 hours of productive practice. So not just that it's up there and you're watching TV or doing something else, but 20 hours of productive practice from the time they've linked their scores. So let's say December to an April exam date, we saw scores increase over 100 points.
Holy cow. Wow.
Students who then linked and spent just a minimum of 6 hours were able to improve over 60 points. So this may not, if you just think of that, that might not just change the type of school that you may get into, but more importantly, we think about scholarships, maybe an honors college, maybe skipping out of a particular class and moving from the 101 to the 102. And so there are a lot of different ways that sometimes just a little change in the score can have a traumatic impact for the benefit of students. So some of the research and the data is really eye-opening, but it's not surprising. Right? Practice does lead to being better.
Practice makes perfect, right? Not that it's about perfection, but absolutely.
But it helps us. It's that pursuit to that.
Sure.
Right? And so if you have practice that's aligned to what you're learning in school or what you have learned, to where you are academically, and it's personalized, it should drive us in the right direction. And so it's really validated that sort of practice. And let's not forget, it's all free.
Right.
It's all free. Yeah. And that's really what we're really trying to do, is drive that access and equity piece for all kids. Mm-hmm. So regardless of what they want to do once they leave high school, that they're as best prepared and they've practiced in a way that will give them those opportunities in the future.
Well, and I've got to think too, Hoor, as you're talking, it makes me think for the kids, obviously it's not just about getting a better score on the test, but obviously the learning of the content is improved. The other thing I think it would do for kids is just help lessen the anxiety that they may have about the day of taking the SAT, that they've done all of these things, and it should bring a little bit more comfort there, I would hope.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why the state and other states have decided to take a college entrance exam and put it on a school day. Yeah. One is those sort of barriers and the anxieties of taking an exam in a school that's not really yours or this, so you've kind of removed that. And then two, the familiarity with the exam and how it functions and how it flows, just the most basic elements of it to remove that first level of anxiety. The more that students can feel comfortable and said, you know what, I'm ready for this, and treating the SAT as if it was the big game or something that something to work towards. And it doesn't define you, it doesn't tell you who you're going to be, but it provides a valuable piece of information to you and to where you want to do and where you want to go, and provide. And so if it's that important, we had to create a resource and a tool that would allow students to engage with it. Right. So these are the things that we've learned over time, and so we can put into practice to sort of change the sort of cultural idea of what the SAT is. It doesn't change what the predictive outcomes would be, but the approachability to it and how to access it is now open to everyone. That should hopefully reduce some of the anxiety and help students feel as best prepared as they possibly can be when they sit down and take the exam on April 10th.
So I got two other things I want to cover here, Hoor. One of those is just, okay, so take the test, April, done, now what?
Yeah.
So for, I guess, two pathways with that. One, for school people, we've got the portal that you guys have put together to get access to the data, which you've demoed for me and some of the staff here at IPA, which is just outstanding. You guys have done some good work to help make that intuitive and provide good resources, but then just for the kids too, things that they need to be thinking about.
Yeah. So one of the things when we started this route towards redesigning, rethinking the SAT is, how do you make data easier to understand? And so that students shouldn't just be getting this sort of score report back in the mail and says, here's what I did, and then it sort of ends. Right. We want the same sort of idea to continue of practice. And so when students get their scores back, we're hoping somewhere around mid-May for an April administration, but don't hold me right around that time frame, that students will then be able to go into their College Board accounts and they'll be able to get a full analysis of how they performed. And then they can actually link their actual April exam scores back into Khan Academy for additional practice should they want to take it again, or to understand where their skill deficits are. Right? This should be part of an ongoing process. It's not I take the exam and I stop, but if we're in this cycle of continuous improvement, we're going to any sort of post-secondary education, I should want to know, this is where some of my gaps are, these are some of the things I can think about, this is where I can work on. We want to remove those sorts of surprises where I didn't know this is where I wasn't strong, or I didn't know what to do next. Data shouldn't be static. It shouldn't just sit there, put it in a shelf, and this is what I did, now what?
Because then it's just about taking the test,
Then it's just about taking a test, right? And we wanted to develop an exam with tools and resources that would be more than that. And so by opening it up a little bit more and making these connections back into Khan Academy and into the student College Board account, there are a lot more opportunities available.
That's terrific. Appreciate that. Last thing I wanted to touch on briefly, we've gotten to know here in our office pretty well Martha Morris from College Board staff. Has been coming out and been putting her on camera here as we're building out courses for our Ed Leaders Network with regards to all of the things that SAT can do for schools, and sure appreciate being able to do that and know that those things will be coming here in the weeks and months to come for administrators and teachers as well. So as we wrap up here, Hoor, just any last words of wisdom, comments from your perspective? We want to make sure we let people know as we head into this spring administration.
Yeah. Everybody's doing exactly what they need to be doing. Students are working hard, putting in their time and the effort and energy. We've seen a large spike in the number of students taking official SAT practice, so I'm excited from the sort of data geek perspective to see how some of this information moves forward, how we're sort of moving the needle, digging into the data a little bit deeper, and really being able to provide this service to the state. It's been a tremendous honor to be able to go to all corners of the state, to listen to people, take their feedback, think about not just how we improve in Illinois, but how we can improve across the country, taking feedback from educators and the students and families about what's really valuable to them. And so this sort of opportunity that the College Board has been given to not just administer an exam, but to be able to do so much more has been tremendously invaluable to us as an organization, so we can continue to refine and make better resources and tools for all kids. So we appreciate the opportunity and the partnership that we've had with IPA. It's just been tremendous.
Well, it's our pleasure. So again, Hoor Bhanpuri with College Board here to talk about what's happening with SAT in Illinois. Again, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director here at IPA. As always, you can call us if you need anything at any time. Please be sure to push the buttons here on the screen to get to other content. And as always, you can check us out on the web here at ilprinciples.org. Take care.